So let's start. Shouty Show time. Let's go.
Good organizations look beyond the results. You wonder, why do you have a head coach that's 26-51? Why are your stars 33, 35, 35, 32? Why are you $72 million over the cap next year, which gives you no hope of fixing it in free agency? Why do you keep whiffing on draft picks like Foskey, Miller, Saldiveri, Penning, Turner? Why do you go out and sign free agents like Chase Young and Willie Gay when you need help at wide receiver in the offensive line? Why? You're the reason why. You're the one. You hired Dennis Allen. You drafted all these bums. You're the one who keeps pissing away Gail Benson's money in the salary cap, so you're $72 million over the cap. You're the one with this stupid protocol where you keep going and restructuring deals and kick the can down the road, and it perpetually puts you in this awful state where you got no money to spend in free agency. You're the one who puts together a staff to go evaluate in the draft, and you keep coming up with Isaiah Foskey in the second-round pick because you like his relative athletic score. I'm sick of it. When is enough enough? You want me to say it again? It's the first thing I said. It's the first note I got. When is enough enough?
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
RAS, just catching strays there.
Just taking one on the side. That was big man.
Not going to lie, I thought that was about the Jets at first.
Same. Yeah. I was confused once names started firing at the draft picks. I was like, the Jets haven't drafted any of those people.
He said 26-50-something record? That's not the Saints record. Is it? They're like over any time period.
I still remain to be convinced that the Saints, like everyone's like, now things are bad. You know, their record's awful. They won 2 straight, look like the best team in the NFL, and have been terrible since. So the wheels are falling off. It's time to blow it up. Everyone's getting fired, blah, blah, blah. And everyone looks, because now is the time you start to look to the future and rebuild and how do we fix this? And they look at the cap space number and they're like, oh no, it's happening again. There's no money to spend. I still remain to be convinced that that is the terminal problem that people think it is, because this is the dynamic every year at this point. This is how the Saints play the cap. I'm not. Nick Wright is taking victory laps. He's like, I've been saying it for years. They're going to be in salary cap hell at some point. It's going to come back to bite. Now is the time, right? I'm not sure that's true. This is how it always looks in October, in November. They then have to go through a purge. Yes, they get rid of players that, maybe in an ideal world they want to keep. Maybe they have to make some deals that in an ideal world they don't want to make. They're going to be cap compliant. They're going to sign people again. It's not.
Yeah, but you don't have the same type of flexibility.
They have it in a different way.
They have to jump through hurdles to become cap compliant, but you lose the flexibility. I'll tell you what the bigger issue is with the Saints is that they've averaged. I said this on the other show. They've averaged under 6 players per draft.
Yeah.
Over the last 4 years.
Right.
And so
their drafts haven't been good recently, which is what helped them.
What we used to always say about the Rams is people would say, the Rams are all in. They're trading everything for Von Miller. But we'd say, yeah, but they're drafting 9 times on day 3.
Right.
And they're finding Ernest Jones in the 3rd round. And they're finding 5th rounders that contribute, right? They're finding players. They're Puka now. They're finding players later in the draft. The Saints have actually had a pretty good hit rate until Isaiah Foskey in the RAS. Until they drafted Brian Brzee and Isaiah Foskey with those first 2 picks a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. They had been really good hit rate-wise. Like if you just evaluate, are they hitting on players in the draft? Really well. They had been really good for a decade, for the last 5 years, no matter which way you slice it. Last couple of years, not as good. But for a while, they were doing it. But they draft less than everyone else. I think that's the problem with the Saints. The 2 things, right? You go all in from a cap perspective, and you also go all in from a draft perspective. I don't think you could do both, right? If you're going to go all in from a cap perspective, draft 12 times, right? Draft 10 times in a year so that you have cheaper players that you can develop and that you can, have better depth on the team. The other part is, I go back to don't evaluate GMs by their QB decisions and everything. What's the biggest difference? Well, Drew Brees retired, right? And look, they had some 7 and 9 years with Drew Brees. They had 3 of them in a row. But they were a 10-win team, 11, 12-win team every year that Drew Brees was there until he wasn't there anymore. Okay, then the rest of the team has to be that much better, and they're not. That was good. That was really good, Rance. That was really good.
Yeah, top tier rant.
That's impressive.
I just still don't believe that this team is in the salary cap hell that people think it is. Like, they are 60-something million over the cap next year.
You're talking about compliance versus the ability to actually make moves.
I'm talking about still being able to make the moves that they make every single year. They are 60-something million over the cap next year. They can free up half of that by restructuring Derek Carr, right? Like, this is a team, this is what happens. We've talked about, they treat the salary cap as a credit card as opposed to teams that treat it like a debit card. This is simply the way they approach the cap. And yeah, that means they have to make some weird moves at free agency, but they sign players. They don't still run into free agency and go, wow, man, there's no way we can ever sign any. We're done. This is it. We have to cut everybody. We have to restructure everybody just to hit the cap. And then we have to sit here quietly doing nothing in free agency while other people are spending the money. They do all this stuff and they make their moves like normal. This is par for the course of the Saints. This is not the salary cap man is coming knocking and now's the time to pay up.
I just think the depth on the team is rough.
Right, but that's not
because of the draft.
I don't think
anything.
It's not a reflection of the salary cap. It's this team is bad right now because a lot of the players that they've selected have not worked out. It's not finally this approach has come back to haunt them. This is just they've missed on a bunch of players recently. Consequently, they don't have good players anymore.
All I know is I take back my apology to the Saints. I apologized to them after 2 weeks when they were averaging 40 points a game, and now I was wrong.
Yeah,
I was wrong. Apologizing to them, I was right. Being low on the Saints coming into this year.
Yeah,
justified.
Okay,
that was a good rant though. Good job.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got here?
I've come to the conclusion that isn't Aaron Rodgers. It's somebody else in that body. This has all been another bad trick. I've come to the conclusion that if the Jets had traded for Jim Brown in his prime, they would have made him a third down back. They could ruin any player. I didn't think you could ruin Aaron Rodgers. They have. They've turned him into a bum. And these head coaches, they cut to the offensive coordinator. He looked like he was waiting for a bus. They asked the coach at halftime, and his statement just made no sense at all. It's something about continuing and just continue to pound the running game. You couldn't move the ball game on the ground. The Pats, who had given up 190, 170, 150, the Jets had 82 after 3 quarters.
Guy's a pro.
Yeah.
It was like delirious time. That was like when my kids are so tired, they're laughing, they're yelling, they don't know what they're doing. It's like, yeah, he's delirious right now.
Yeah.
He's smiling, he's laughing. Last week it was, Rodgers got to retire. This week, I don't even know if it's Rodgers' fault. It's Fireman Ed. Fireman Ed ruins everybody.
I mean, yeah, we have to repeat that, Rodgers, again, I still don't think he's playing particularly badly. This idea of the Jets have absolutely broken him. Like, he's playing better than you expect a 40-year-old guy coming off an Achilles injury to be playing.
Yeah, and it's also one of his worst seasons, right? Because he's 40.
Right.
Coming off of an Achilles injury.
But it's like
they're not getting 2014 Aaron Rodgers.
But, like, they haven't ruined him.
It is kind of funny to me. Like, if you look at every advanced metrics, I think PFF is close. I think EPA is close. Adjusted EPA is close. The only one that's not that close, I think maybe ESPN's QBR. Close between Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Like, they're close in almost every advanced metric. And one guy's MVP favorite number 1 or 2, and the other guy's like, gotta retire! It's time to retire!
But even if you just looked at, pick any number. We're not looking at a guy who's playing like Will Levis out there, right? Like, Rodgers is not out here as a complete catastrophe. Nothing's working. He looks like a disaster. He can't make a throw. His numbers are like 2 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Like, we're not witnessing this. Rodgers is playing pretty well. It's just that the Jets aren't winning football games, so New York morons are melting down on the air. That's what's happening.
Yeah, which is fun.
I mean, it's fun, but it's kind of grating.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. I think the bigger issue, Rodgers is 40. He is far more limited than he was before. And in addition to, like, Todd Downing's now calling the plays, right? Replacing Nathaniel Hackett. Hackett is not a great offensive coordinator. I think we knew that. Downing, when certain people around the PFF building a few years ago were putting rankings on offensive coordinators when Downing was calling plays in Tennessee, Wasn't great there either.
Yeah.
And then Aaron Rodgers is kind of running his offense no matter who's calling the plays. And that offense, last time Aaron Rodgers was in charge of an offense, also wasn't that good. I think just all of this in totality is adding up to bad on that particular side of the ball. Plus, the defense is way worse than it's been for the last 3 years.
Evidently, it is bad in totality. Institutionally, it's a problem. But remember when Woody Johnson gave the quote that, thinking is overrated, just do, So he didn't think. He fired Robert Saleh. He just did. And everything they've done might have made it worse. That's the real issue, right? Is that it was bad. It wasn't working, and your solution to that was to just knee-jerk fire the head coach because what the hell, right? Thinking's overrated. I gotta do something, so let's just fire this guy, right? Okay, but firing that guy put somebody else in charge who might not be any good either. It also took the thing that was pretty good and probably made it worse by taking that guy out of the defensive room day to day, minute to minute. Like he's now focusing on 58 other things instead of just the defense.
He's now on the 6-2 Packers.
Right. Your move to change offense coordinator might not have made it any better because the new guy has a history of being bad at play calling. So all of your thinking's overrated, just do actions might be making it worse. This is why actually thinking is important, right? If I do this move, what are the possible outcomes of this? What is the most likely thing to happen? That's why you think. Thinking isn't overrated. Thinking's actually quite important because knee-jerk idiotic reactions can make it worse. Getting into the spirit of the Shouty Shows.
That was good. They're making us shout.
Yeah.
I love that. But I love, as the bottom Francesa says, Rodgers isn't Rodgers. I'm happy that they at least grew from 40-year-old quarterback doesn't look right, and you just say it's the Cliff. Cliff 40. Cliff. It's a Cliff. He's just bad. Cliff. It's at least Rodgers isn't Rodgers. He expected 33-year-old Aaron Rodgers, and now it's just the Jets have ruined him. I blame Fireman Ed, as always. All right. We got 2 more of these, I think. Let's go.
The New York Jets of 2024 are one of the colossal failures in sports history. But when you consider the future Hall of Fame quarterback and the trade they make for his longtime best friend and all these young players they have on the roster and they fire the coach because it's going to make them better and it only makes them worse, and everything else, all the words that have been said, all the words that have been written, all the actions that have been taken, all the hype and all the belief that has existed, and what the actual results have been, the Jets of 2024 are one of the greatest, most colossal and embarrassing failures in sports history. And that sticks to all of them. So when people say, does this stick to Rodgers? Yes. It doesn't mean he's not an all-time great. It doesn't mean he's not a Hall of Famer. But it most certainly goes in the permanent record. It goes in the bio. The New York Jets turned over their entire franchise to him, and it got much, much worse. Like embarrassingly worse. What they're doing is embarrassing to watch.
You go through all of Greeny's optimism. You deal with all of that through the spring and the summer for that moment right there in week 8 where he can declare this Jets team that no one's going to remember 10 years from now as the biggest colossal failure in sports history. Sports history.
Every time I hear Greeny do a monologue, it feels like somebody attempting to create a speech that will go down in history and be remembered. You know what I mean? Like all of Churchill's speeches that everyone remembers and writes down all the Churchill quotes, which is every quote. FDR's speech, all these speeches that everyone remembers. John F. Kennedy, ask not what you blah, all this kind of stuff, right? Those were amazing because they weren't necessarily this will be the moment that everyone remembers. It's just they were so good that that's what happened. This feels like somebody trying to do that every time he's doing it. It's like, guys, I've worked for 5 hours on this. I have it absolutely nailed. This one is airtight. Every word, it's buttoned up. This is the one people are going to remember. This is what my Hall of Fame, like when I go into the Hall of Fame as a contributor, this is what they're going to play. They're going to be saying, what a call. This is like, do you believe in miracles? This is what I've done here. This is my magnum opus.
This is like, yeah, I think you're right. That's really well done, Sam. Good job by you. That might be yours.
Yeah,
that description.
That right there.
Yeah. I could see Greeny, like the Jets lose at 4 p.m. Greeny's like, I'm out on the 4 p.m. so I got a speech to write.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to get ready for tomorrow morning. I'm not even going to watch the Chiefs, the
Broncos,
the Chargers, whoever's on. I got to write this thing. I'm not even going to watch Sunday Night Football. We got to button this thing up for Monday morning.
The second that drive failed, he's like, pad and paper. Give me the legal pad. I'm getting to work. Tomorrow mornings is going to get me in the Hall of Fame as a contributor. It's going to be the best speech I've ever written.
I love it. And so people deal with his Jets fandom just to watch this train wreck radio and just gloat in his sadness.
But it's so try hard. Like, it feels contrived, all of it. And it's like
you're saying that too because he's the host.
Yeah.
Right?
Everybody sit back.
We've all worked
a monologue.
We've all worked with a host who might, push aside his hosting duties where he's supposed to be pinball into other people, and he might want to pull the camera into himself a little bit and give his monologue and give his take. We've all worked with someone like that.
Careful now.
But that's what it kind of looks like.
Yeah. I'm
not going to name names.
No.
What else we got? Last one. I think we have one more.
Do we? Are you sure? Oh, there we
I'm
go.
a former offensive lineman. We don't get breaks. We're sitting blocking for you every single play to protect you, okay? And you're going to sit there and going to tap you and ask out of the game? You need to get your conditioning up. I don't know what I can't even wrap my mind around the fact that you're asking out of a game. You must be grossly out of shape or something else must be going on, but I don't have the luxury as an offensive lineman to tap my helmet to get out of the game. What the hell was that, Rex? I don't understand.
I mean, this actually happened.
It actually happened.
Can you imagine? Like, I've been around this game all my life. All right, literally. I've never seen a quarterback have to tap out of a freaking. Are you kidding me? He thinks it's acceptable.
Yeah.
What makes you think this is acceptable, kid? Is it the fact that the GM's making the head coach play you? Maybe that's what makes it acceptable.
Thought for a second a wrestler was going to jump in and start smashing through tables.
Rex has his own intro music. When Rex speaks, he has his music there. That's great.
That's the Warriors music.
And that's going to transition us nicely into the news that Anthony Richardson has been benched.
Yeah. Can I just take a moment though to chuckle at the comedy of Damien Woody, who at his playing weight was 327 pounds and is now more than that, will we say? I mean, he seems to be on the Jeff Schwartz end of the spectrum of people that did not lose weight. When they
don't go
retired.
there, Sam.
I'm just saying that somebody like that harping on a guy's conditioning is kind of funny. It just is,
I mean, you don't have to run around the way he did.
You need to get your conditioning up, says 300-plus pound man sitting in a chair.
Damien Woody and Rex Ryan sum up. I mean, it's not just them. Our producers chose one clip of people criticizing Anthony Richardson. This is pretty consistent across every former player, every former coach. The tap on the helmet by Anthony Richardson to come out on the 3rd and 20 play. You were right. I did not think it was going to be that big of a deal, but from Pat McAfee to Damien Woody to Rex Ryan to Jeff Saturday to everyone else, I don't know. They all are all in on Anthony Richardson should never ask out of a play. And I will just reiterate, if anybody can remember Vic doing this, I swear he did it. And was so exhausted he had to miss a play or two for a handoff or whatever it was. I haven't found it. I didn't sit there and watch every single Vic game from 02 to 07, 06. But there was somewhere in there, I swear he did it. And it made sense. But, it made sense to me. I'm like, well, you just ran around for 40 yards. Of course. Like, you're that exhausted. Or like he just had to hand it off the next play or whatever. But yeah, the players and coaches are big mad about Anthony
Not just
Richardson.
that, but I mean, there's a pretty. I mean, he appears to have been benched now, right? Like this Monday, they asked Steichen, right, about what the story was, and he was like, "We're evaluating. Is he going to be the starter? We're evaluating everything," which is unmistakably no, he won't be, but we're not ready to announce that yet. So now he's been benched. So, and I think there's a pretty prevailing line of thought that was a big part of it. The tapping out of the game,
I think that
is a big part of being benched.
I honestly don't believe. What's he, 10 starts into his career? I know we've talked about his completion percentage being historically bad, 44% and all this stuff. I believe this is the biggest part of the benching.
The tapping out thing.
Yes. And again, I don't think it's the only thing. I'm assuming that they're in the building with him all the time. And I think Mitchell Schwartz summed a lot of this up for a while really well in a thread yesterday. But chances are this isn't the only thing that they've seen from Anthony Richardson that suggests maybe they don't want him being the leader of the Colts at this very moment, right? That whatever other stuff has happened off the field maybe culminated in this moment rather than triggered. So this moment triggering, we got to bench him because he tapped his helmet on a 3rd and 20.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.